A passionate commitment to a cause is a good thing, but if it proves to be the wrong cause, misdirected passion can be a disaster. When a person has devoted their life to going one direction and then realizes their error, is it possible to do a mid-course correction? Today we will learn about a dramatic example, one that had far-reaching consequences for an entire nation. Welcome to another episode of It's Never Too Late. We will hear the dramatic true story from nearly a century ago of a misguided American named Whittaker Chambers. Before we enter into his world, I have a brief request. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button and share it with friends. And you are also welcome to subscribe to the Life Academy channel on YouTube, which will help others to find us and to hear other inspiring, life-transforming stories. Now let's meet Whittaker Chambers. Born soon after the start of the 20th century, he grew up in a Long Island suburb of New York in a dysfunctional family with no Christian faith. He graduated from Columbia University, demonstrating a keen mind and a gift for writing and languages. Like many young people in post-World War I academic circles, he was attracted to communism. Its ideals seemed to offer a new world of justice and equality to replace the old, tired world of European aristocracies that had collapsed on the bloody battlefields of the First World War. The seeming promise of the Russian Revolution attracted romantic idealists. In his early 20s, Chambers jumped all the way in, becoming a member of the American Communist Party in New York. He was so faithful to their meetings and so passionately dedicated to their cause that he was recruited by Soviet secret agents to become part of an underground communist network and perform espionage against his own country. By order of his handlers, Chambers was transferred to Washington, D.C., and given leadership of a growing secret network of Soviet spies who worked in government agencies. These spies would clandestinely steal or copy top-secret documents from the State Department, the War Department, the Labor Department, and other key executive agencies, and funnel them through Chambers to his Russian superiors. The Depression and the arrival of the New Deal Democrats in Washington furthered the progressive agenda of the secret communists and gave them cover. After a dozen years as a spy, Chambers became disillusioned with communism. Witnessing Stalin's purges and the brutal tactics of the party started him on a personal search for answers. He came to see that communism's core conviction was an elevation of man and a denial of God. Further, it taught that individuals meant nothing and the all-powerful state or party was all that mattered. It demonstrated that every commandment and law and moral impulse of humanity could be violated for the greater good of the communist revolution. After several aha moments of realization, he began a search for God and became a believer, largely through a community of devout Quakers. He was impacted by the classic French novel Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, especially its most Christ-like figure, the Bishop of Digne, who seemed to provide a different model of caring for the poor and oppressed than the communists did. His was a model of humility, forgiveness, service, and faith so profoundly different from what Chambers had experienced with the Soviets. Whittaker Chambers made the momentous and risky decision in 1938 to defect from communism. He went into hiding with his family for a period of months to avoid retribution, and then became an editor at Time magazine in New York. The magazine, edited at that time by Henry Luce, was conservative and anti-communist, and Chambers felt it was an intellectual and spiritual home for him. At that time, he contacted the FBI to alert them to the alarming number of government officials who were Soviet spies, but the investigation was quashed by FDR himself, who didn't want to be distracted from his New Deal agenda or acknowledge its socialist underpinnings. 10 years later, After World War II and the disastrous capture of Eastern Europe by the communists, Chambers again went public with what he knew. A House committee, headed by none other than Richard Nixon, California congressman, and a few honest FBI agents, followed up on his accusations, and they were proven to be true. Most notably, and notoriously, Chambers testified that a high-ranking State Department official named Alger Hiss was a communist agent. This man, Hiss, who had been with Roosevelt at the infamous Yalta Conference and had actually drafted the agreement that surrendered East Germany and other countries to Soviet control, was thus truly working effectively on behalf of his Russian funders and against the interests of the West. Hiss denied the allegations and filed a high-profile libel lawsuit against Chambers. The left-leaning media and government, who saw Hiss as one of their own with Ivy League credentials, defended him and attacked Chambers viciously. But at a critical point, Chambers was able to produce convincing evidence of Hiss's treachery. Alger Hiss was indicted, tried, and convicted of espionage and went to prison. Chambers was vindicated, and he wrote a powerful memoir that became a bestseller entitled Witness. In his book, he expands the title's meaning from just being a witness in a legal procedure to the Christian meaning of witness, testifying to the truth of Scripture in the face of a hostile world. He wrote this: I do not know any way to explain why God's grace touches a man who seems unworthy of it, but neither do I know any other way to explain how a man like myself, tarnished by life, unprepossessing, not brave, could prevail so far against the powers of the world, almost solidly against him, to destroy him and defeat his truth. I am an involuntary witness to God's grace and to the fortifying power of faith. Communism, at least the Russian Soviet brand, ultimately died at the hand of its own built-in flaws and inconsistencies and by the changing landscape of decades. Tragically, several generations of people in Eastern Europe and Russia suffered under communism before its collapse, and many more to this day suffer in China and North Korea and Cuba and Venezuela from its lies and brutality. The current fascination of the progressive left in the West with the ideologies of socialism and wokeness are all continuing expressions of the core mistake of Marxism, the elevation of mankind and the denial of God, thinking that we have the power to solve our own problems by our own cleverness and social engineering. We still need courageous Christian witnesses like Whittaker Chambers in our times to speak the truth and confront the lies and delusions of all man-centered and God-denying ideologies. As the story of Whittaker Chambers demonstrates, it's never too late. A dramatized version of the change in heart that this man underwent has been produced and is available for you to see. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time for another edition of It's Never Too Late.